This is Todd with Industrial Comfort. So a friend of mine reaches out yesterday and he says, hey, I know you're pretty good with a lathe. A friend of mine has a hammer that was given to him by his grandfather and the handle broke. Can you replace it? I said, sure. It actually sounds like a pretty cool project. I'm thinking, maybe a vintage antique mallet or ball peen hammer or something along those lines. So I go to his house and pick up this. This is an aluminum meat tenderizer. So not surprisingly, my stoke level for this project drops pretty precipitously. And then I started thinking about it, and it's going to present a number of unique challenges in that this hollow piece of aluminum is going to be more susceptible to stress fractures and cracks when we go to put the wedge joint in. So now this is actually kind of a little cool because it's going to be complicated. So aside from working the appropriate shoulder on the bottom, I also have to figure out a collar for the top to keep it in place without adding too much pressure. So let's see what we come up with. I start the project by ripping a piece of extra maple that I've got in the shop. I'm cutting it 1 inch wide by 1.5 inches deep. And I'm doing so because I just want to knock the corners off the long edge when I put it on the lathe. I'm not looking to create a perfect cylinder for the handle. Before I get to the lathe, I'm going to drill a hole in the blank I've got. This is going to serve as the end point for the wedge joint. You never want to just use a bandsaw to the desired length. You always want to use a hole to prevent cracking once you insert the wedge. Got the wood mounted, so let's start turning. At this point, I'm going to use my parting tool to create a shoulder on the handle, and it's the shoulder that the meat tenderizer head is going to sit on. And in a few minutes, I'm going to go ahead and remove the material above the shoulder so that we can slide the head onto the handle. I've taken the handle over to the belt sander and I'm going to profile a rectangular shape so that I can pass the handle through the head of the meat tenderizer. I've got the handle over at the bandsaw and I'm going to run a channel down to the hole that we drilled earlier so that we can create a channel for the wedge to slide into to create the joint. back over at the belt sander and I'm profiling a small wedge that will slide into the channel we just cut in the handle, creating the wedge joint. I'm at the bandsaw to create the collar that I mentioned earlier for the top of this handle. Because the head of the meat tenderizer is hollow, I don't have the luxury of being able to use a bunch of adhesive to keep the head in place. So when the wedge is used, it'll split the top of the handle and the collar will catch the head and keep it in place. My friend requested that I not put a final top coat on the wood, so I'm going to leave it as is. If you've ever broken a handle on your hammer or even your meat tenderizer, hopefully you found this helpful. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Thanks.